Hey everybody, welcome in. So what we are going to talk about today is a little bit of tournament prep, or what I have done to get myself ready for a tournament that we just had recently. And I know people have a hard time differentiating between tournaments and ladder, because the ladder pretty much is a month-long tournament of strength. But this is how I prepared myself for playing something, or playing in a tournament atmosphere, and just a little bit of tips, a little bit of hints. It's gonna be a little jumbled. I'm working off thoughts in my head as I write them down, and I'm just kind of recording as we go. But this is just, I think, something that could be helpful to the community itself in making us a stronger community and ready for a tournament setting and tournament formats, and to be a stronger community in playing in the actual tournaments and having a lot of fun together. So with no further ado, let's jump to my tips. Okay, so my first tip to get ready and prepped for a tournament is to kind of understand the limitations of what your decks, what the deck structure will be, and kind of know that everybody's going to be under the same stipulations. So in the last tournament, the rules were only post-rotation cards, which means no Day of Nightmares, Devil Awakens, or Force Seekers, so none of those cards. And also, one deck had to be Ada, so there's your purple deck. You could take another purple deck. For myself, I'd like to bring 3 different colors, just to kind of keep myself on that horizon of being protected, of having answers to everything. So understanding that the opponents are going to be under the same situation too, and then understanding the situation that, which is going to lead to my next point, is that certain decks will not work in a tournament format. Tournament format usually is 3 heroes, or 3 arts I should say, minimum, and only 3 they have to be different heroes in some tournaments. Some you've been allowed to use multiple of the same hero but different arts, and then the stipulation of the cards. So like I was saying earlier, it's not, you have to understand the limitations of what you have to work with, and then try to look for those hidden synergies in, and that's what led me to this deck right here, which is, we all know, is Team Iris, that I ran in the tournament. This is all hidden synergy that once I knew the stipulations, I looked up the cards and I started looking how they melded together and worked together to become this deck. Same with green black here. It would definitely be stronger with Force Seekers and stuff like that, but you have to know your limitations and kind of find things that work around it. Again, with the purple deck that I used, the Slurple, it's almost all new cards within the last 2 sets, so you just got to find those synergies and work with it, and understand that other people are going to be under the same situation. And that's going to lead me into my next tip of talking about the actual decks. Okay, so let's talk about actual decks. So, you could always bring something into a tournament that's meta ready. And a good example is Antibody Activation. Always a good deck on the ladder. It's always good. You could take a loss here or there, not being able to get the Explorers out when you need them, but it's always good on a ladder. I don't think it's great. Chris D said this way back when Worlds were coming up. I do not think, and I agree with him, I do not think it's a great tournament deck. Why? Because it relies too much on hitting your activation points to be able to use your art and have an effective deck. Something like Yawn, the new Memory Yawn, can really, this is not the version I was looking for, but you get the idea when I'm showing this. It's a version that really works consistently. This is a meta deck that would work in a tournament setting because you could bounce around and you can do things like that. Another deck that would work pretty well, I actually don't have a build for it to show you, but something like a standard, maybe this one, something like a standard Dispel, Wail, and Perish deck would work good in a tournament setting. It's got consistency. It's able to be abused, and again, this is a deck that's pre-rotation, but you get what I'm saying. That things like meta decks are not always the answer in tournaments, so you have to look for things. You have to expect surprises from people, and that's the way I like to build my decks. I brought 3 surprise decks that aren't meta, they aren't anything, but they're consistent and they have counters to things that are meta. For instance, Team Iris is able to go toe-to-toe with Yawn. It's able to go toe-to-toe with Yawn because I'm able to exchange with shields. I'm able to exchange with that. It's also able to go toe-to-toe with something like Big Rezo, which is a huge tournament deck, by the way. If you didn't know, I'll talk about it in my next point. Knowing what tournament settings are, or tournament type decks are, but this is a huge counter to decks you'd probably see. You're going to probably see Yawn. This is a huge counter. You're going to see things like Raging Demon. This is a counter to it because you just keep popping out units, because once you have a field, you don't have to worry about popping actions if you don't need to. And Yawn, you're able to exchange with shields and things like that. That's why I built this deck. It was a counter to decks I thought I would see. Also, on the other hand, you're going to see a lot of green-red in tournaments, so that's why I'm scrolling down to it. I came up with this version of the deck because it had a ton of seals. There's ways to seal those green and red legendaries that pound you, and also things that get shield spires are also a way to seal this up. So you have to think of counters and surprises, the things people aren't going to see. Kokosho, I was the only player out of 57 that played Kokosho in the whole tournament, and I played it consistently, and I was 5-1 with it because it was a deck that was surprising. People don't know how to react to something they don't see very often. And Slurple, a lot of people playing Ada, a lot of people are playing her in a Big Rezo type of way. And you all saw this deck. This is the first deck I ever talked about since Ada launched, but it's kind of a surprise. People don't expect to see something like this coming out of the gate. That's the way you want to have a surprise. You want to have a deck that counters a lot of the meta style decks or a lot of powerful decks and are able to get you through. And let's go on to my next point. Okay, so my next point is to understand what good tournament decks. Oh, it goes back to understanding tournament decks. So what I did is I looked at the past tournaments, I looked at past worlds, I looked at everything, and you look at the trends when you see what's doing well and what's not. So what has been doing well all the time, no matter what the meta is looking like, no matter what anything else is looking like, is Big Rezo. That's one of those big things. And so how do you counter Big Rezo? Big Rezo likes to go over the top. They like to build these big buff units and then fly over the top of you and deal 15, 20, sometimes even 30 damage per hit. I can tell you there were probably 30 or 40 players in this tournament that played a Big Rezo deck. So you have to look at that and think like, well, how do I stop Big Rezo? How do I stop Big Rezo is to not let them go over the top, which is a card like something that has anti-flight, or a deck of flyers. You can block them. But that's just basically thinking, and then you also have to think, yeah, I'm going to see meta Yawn, I'm going to see things like that. So what kind of, you just have to work with what you got. You got to know that things are going to come at you, and things are going to come fast and hard. And there's going to be different styles of decks you're going to see. Like I said, you're going to see a deck like this, which is a Big Rezo deck. You're going to see things that you don't often see on the ladder because it's not strong in a tournament setting, if that makes any sense. But yeah, so that's how this works. You have to expect the unexpected. You have to know that strong decks have been strong since day one, are still going to show up no matter what. And that's my point there, is be ready for the stronger decks. Be ready for things that you don't see on the ladder. Be ready for things, like I said, like Big Rezo and everything that comes with that. So that's that point. And we're going to move on to my next point, which is we're going to talk about getting a training partner. Okay, so my next point is going to be get yourself within a training partner, 2, 3, maybe even 4 people that understand the rules of the tournament, understand how things are going to work, even going to participate themselves, and practice. It's always good to have different eyes in the situation. This match right here is a training match I had against my friend Miles. We talk on Discord almost every day, discussing strategies, how to play, or what we think we're going to see, things like that. And then we go take it into room matches and we practice. Also, a good way to do it is to watch a lot of streamers go. I was streaming right a week or two before the tournament even started. I was working with it, and I was taking on room matches with people that wanted to room match with tournament rules. Also, I know Thirsty did the same thing. He puts on the tournaments, yet he gives us all these opportunities to practice against him, and he's a damn good player. So it's always great practice. Rank Dropper was doing the same thing towards when it was getting closer to the tournament. So even if you're shy, you could always still jump on stream with somebody. And in this community, a majority of people, I would say, are willing to help and willing to help people practice and get used to it. And that's my next point, is talk about it. Get a second, third set of eyes on your decks, and when they tell you something that they think is wrong with your deck or that you can fix, don't take it as a negative feedback. Take it as a positive. Even after playing this, Miles was like, dude, this is your deck. And this is the match that made me want to bring this specific deck to the tournament. So get those second and third opinions on your builds. And my final point for this is to not let a loss get to you. If you lose a match, it's not the end of the world. Yes, does it put you on the ropes for losing that round? Yeah, but then you can still, again, play the same deck again, or you can come with something that you know that they can't play that same deck again. So if they overpower you with a deck, they're done. They can't use that specific deck again, so come back with something different and just give it your best shot. Don't let the stress get to you. I know that's easier said than done. I've been competing in things my whole life. I know how to compartmentalize my stress. I know how to compartmentalize my stress. I can't even talk today. But it's an easy way. Do something before the tournament, or do something the night before, or get your favorite drink and have it with you. When you lose, if you win, when you lose, take a sip, just relax for a minute, get your head back straight, and get back in the game. Don't let a loss determine how you actually are going to feel about the rest of the tournament. Don't let one loss, or one bad play, or one frustrating thing, don't let it ruin your whole tournament experience. That's a good way to get out quickly. I went down in the first round. I lost 0-2 to 2 red decks, and I was like, oh man, now I gotta climb back. And then what happened exactly next is I lost the very first round of my next match, so I was down to my very last match. And I just said, you know what, screw it, let's put the balls to the walls and let's just go. And I just rolled, and then I rolled on to 4 straight wins and ended up losing on the very last play to Water, who was number 3 on the ladder at the time and one of the best players in the world. I lost to him on the very, very, very last second in our third match. That would have moved me on even further. So again, did I let it get to me? I was a little frustrated that I was down and I was on my very last match, which was this game right here, by the way. But I did not let it destroy me. I didn't let it put me in a situation where I'm saying, oh god, this is it. Just so, my best tool is to find something to relax during the tournament, or even before the tournament. Just find something that helps you relax and play better, or get refocused, and then that's that. So those are 5 tips I believe it was 5, on how I prepared for the tournament and how I went about the tournament that can help you probably be better in the long run. Again, I'm always open to helping everybody, looking at their decks, playing against them, practicing. I will be putting out a more consistent stream schedule. I know I've been sick, my kids have been sick, so we've been a little bit off, but always feel free to stop by and ask me for a match. I'll more than happily open up a room and play with you and give you tips on what I've seen. I know a lot of the community does the same thing, so there's no issue with that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for stopping by again. This has been my tournament exposition that I've been wanting to get out, but I haven't quite got out yet. And next time, what I'm going to be dropping is a nice new machine deck video that's been crazily tearing up the ladder since Kokosho got buffed. So thank you guys so much for checking it out again. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate it so much. Follow me on Twitter, where I post things daily on TEPPEN and my random life. Check out my Twitch, which is I'm shooting for 50 followers by the end of the month, so check me out there if you can. I'll have the links in the description for that. And also make sure you like, subscribe, and leave comments and give me some pointers and feedback. I'm always open to it to make better content for you guys and make the community a better place. So thank you guys again. Thank you. Have a good day or a good night or a good evening.